Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be doing a book haul, and it's actually my first book haul of 2021, although to be fair I probably shouldn't be doing a book haul because I shouldn't be buying books, but apparently I have no self-control. To be fair though, there's 15 books that I'm going to talk about in this video, and I'm pretty sure that I bought all of them in 99p Kindle deals, so I can't be too mad at myself. And I do actually find that with Kindle books, it's a lot easier for me to pretend that they don't exist, because it's not like they're sat on my shelf like physically looking at me and judging me and asking me, when are you going to read me? So it's a lot easier to just keep buying them and pretend like I'm going to read them soon, and if I don't, then it's fine. I am going to split this video into sections based on genre, because I think I have a few thrillers, a few fantasy, and then a few romance, and also like miscellaneous. So if there are any genres that you're interested in, then I will have timestamps down below so you can skip ahead. So I'm going to start with thrillers, and the first book that I'm going to talk about, which I actually bought quite recently, is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So this is about a woman who lives in this neighbourhood that is slowly being gentrified, and a lot of her neighbours have moved away to the suburbs, and supposedly that's where they've moved to, but she starts to learn that there might be something more sinister going on. I have heard mixed reviews for this book, but I think that a lot of the criticisms or the negative reviews that I've seen have said that this starts off feeling more like a romance, which I'm absolutely fine with. I think that Alyssa Cole is actually most well known as a romance author, and so if that is the case, then yeah, doesn't bother me. I like romance and I like thrillers, so I'm really intrigued to see what I think of this. The next book on my list is The Whisper Man by Alex North, and this follows a man and his son who moved to this town where 25 years ago there was a serial killer called the Whisper Man who abducted and murdered a load of people, but he was caught and he was sent to prison. However, after this father and son moved to town, there's another abduction. I think a young boy goes missing, and there are similarities to the case from 25 years ago. And I believe that this follows the detectives that are working on that case, and they're basically trying to find this boy before it's too late. I've heard really great things about this. I've heard that it's very creepy and suspenseful, so it sounds like the kind of thriller that I would like. The next book on my list is The Defence by Steve Cavanagh, and this is the first book in the Eddie Flynn series, which follows a con artist turned lawyer called Eddie Flynn, surprisingly. I think in this book, Eddie's daughter is kidnapped, and he's told that the only way to get his daughter back is to defend this mafia boss and win. I have actually read books 4 and 5 in this series already, and I really enjoyed them. I gave them both 5 stars. They're written in a way that you don't have to read the series in order. You can read them as standalones, but I have been meaning for a while to go back and read this series from the beginning. Have heard that the earlier books aren't as good, but I'm hoping that I will still enjoy them. The next book on my list is Dear Child by Romy Haussman, which I really hope I pronounced that right. I did Google beforehand, but my accent is awful. This is translated fiction. It was originally published in German, and it's now been translated into English. This follows a woman who was being held captive in a shack in these woods, but she escaped, and now the police have a lot of questions because certain things aren't adding up. Her description and her name matches a woman who did go missing many years ago, but the pieces aren't quite fitting together. The reviews for this look really good, and I have heard that it's got lots of twists and turns, so sounds like the kind of thriller that I would enjoy. Next on my list is One by One by Ruth Ware, and this is about a team of work colleagues who go away to this ski chalet, this ski resort on a company retreat, and not long after they arrive they start getting picked off one by one, and so it's this isolated setting, murder mystery type vibe. I have heard mixed reviews about this, but I think most of the criticism that I've seen has been around the fact that it doesn't have a lot of like shocking twists and that it's much more atmosphere driven. But I feel like if I know that going in, then my expectations will be at the right level. So I still really want to give it a go, and I will just keep an open mind. So next I'm going to move on to fantasy, and the first book on my list is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Ngan, which is about a girl called Lay who is selected to be a paper girl. And so in her country, The paper girls are essentially the king's concubines. I think that's the right word. But this king is horrible and abusive, and Lay ends up falling in love with one of the other paper girls, and together they work together to bring down the monarchy. Love the sound of this book, and this series is actually one of my top 10 fantasy series that I really want to start this year, so hopefully I get around to it soon. Next on my list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco, and this is about a girl whose twin sister is murdered, like right at the very start of the book, and she uses magic because I think she's a witch, so she uses dark magic to summon a prince from hell, and he says that he can help her find out what happened to her sister. Don't know much more than that, but I have heard that this is quite heavy on the romance, which I am intrigued by. I've never actually read anything by Kerry Maniscalco before, but I have heard of her other series, the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, which I know is really popular and a lot of people seem to love, so really interested to see what I think of her writing. Next on my list is Jade City by Fonda, and this is set in a world where you have something called Jade, and Jade is basically something that can give people magical abilities, and I think most of the book is set on this island where you have these two rival families that control the Jade. Heard a lot of great things about this book, and I also have heard that it's kind of similar to The Godfather in terms of the general vibe, which I don't know if that is correct or accurate. I've never actually seen The Godfather, but I do know roughly what it's about, and so I can imagine the general vibe. Next on my list is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archive series, which is an epic high fantasy series. I'm pretty sure most people will know of Brandon Sanderson. He's a very popular author, and the main reason I bought this is because I know that at some point I do want to try and read all of Brandon Sanderson's books. I do also have the Mistborn trilogy here, which I also bought like a couple of months ago, and I do want to get round to first, so I'm planning this year to read Mistborn, and then I'm going to move on to the Stormlight Archive. Realistically, I know that it's probably going to be a year or two before I do get round to this, but I wanted to have it ready, and it was 99p, so that's a bargain. So next I'm going to move on to romance books, and the first book that I'm going to talk through is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I've never actually read any Christina Lauren books before, but I have heard a lot of people do enjoy their books, and so I am excited to give this one a go. So I think I'm going to do a really bad job of explaining this, but this is about two people who end up going on a honeymoon together, but they're not actually married, because what happened is there was this wedding where everyone, including the bride and groom, but not including these two people, everyone got food poisoning. And because these two people, I think it's the bride's sister and the best man, they are the only ones who didn't get food poisoning, and so they're the only ones that can take advantage of the honeymoon because it's non-refundable. It's a hate to love situation. I've heard it's really light-hearted and funny and adorable, and I'm here for it. Next on my list is The Bride Test by Helen Hoang, which is a follow-on to The Kiss Quotient, which is one of my favourite romance books. I read it last year, although I believe that this can be read as a standalone because it follows characters that were mentioned in the first book, but it's like a separate story. So this follows Kai, whose mom really wants him to find a wife, and so she takes him to Vietnam, where he meets this girl and brings her back to America, and it's about their relationship. That might be completely wrong. I haven't really looked too much into the plot of this. All I know is that I really like Helen Hoang's writing, and I really loved The Kiss Quotient. It's one of the steamiest romance books that I've read, but it was just also so adorable and so well written, and I really liked the autism rep as well. I think there's a third book that comes out this year, and so I really want to catch up before then. Next on my list is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, and this is about two work colleagues who really don't like each other, and they're always pulling pranks and stuff on each other, and then they both get put forward for the same promotion. And that's all I really know, other than it's a romance and it's a hate to love situation, so I can probably predict what's going to happen. But I have heard mixed reviews on this. A lot of people recommended this to me, which is why I bought it. But then since then, I've seen a couple of mixed reviews, like negative reviews, and the negative reviews that I've seen have mentioned stuff that I know I don't really like in romance. Like, I'm sure I've seen a few people say that the main male character is quite possessive, And so I don't know whether I still want to read this anymore. Like it's a difficult one because I know a lot of people love this book. Maybe one day I will feel in the mood to read it, but it's not like a massive priority at the moment. So finally, I'm going to talk through some books that don't really fit into those other categories. So we're going to call this miscellaneous or other. And the first book that I'm going to talk about is Wolf by Ryan Graudin, which I hope I pronounced that name right. I want to say that this is historical fiction, but it's set in an alternative reality where Hitler and the Nazi Party won World War II, and it follows a girl who enters this competition because the winner of this competition gets to meet Hitler, and she really wants to win and meet Hitler because she wants to kill him. I hope I've described that right, but I saw Jess from Books Past Bedtime talking about this book in one of her videos last year, and I really liked the idea behind it. I really thought the concept sounded interesting, so I decided to pick it up. I saw it in a 99p Kindle deal, as with all of the books in this video, and so I'm really hoping to get around to this soon because I think I'm going to enjoy it. Next on my list is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and this is a classic gothic mystery about a woman who meets a man on holiday and they fall in love and have this whirlwind romance, and they end up getting married, and he takes her home to his house, and when she gets there, his ex-wife is haunting the place. I don't know whether she's literally haunting the place or whether this woman just sees her, like her influence everywhere. I've never actually read this book or seen the film. I almost did both last year, but I couldn't decide whether I wanted to watch the film first or read the book first, and so I did neither. But I am determined that I will read this book eventually. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to love it because I've heard that it has really good atmosphere, and I love books that have really good atmosphere. The final book I'm going to talk about is All the Lonely People by Gayle, and this is contemporary fiction about a man who I think is a widower and he's also retired, and his life is very, very lonely, but his daughter lives in Australia and they talk quite regularly on Skype and stuff, and he tells her about his life. But the life that he tells her about is the complete opposite of the life that he actually has. But then she turns around one day and says that she's going to come and visit him. And so he's put in this position where he has to try and match his real life to the life that he's told her about. I did read another book by this author last year. It was called Half a World Away, and I really enjoyed it. It made me cry. It was very emotional and I really liked the writing style. And from the sounds of it, this book is going to be just as emotional. And so I feel like I need to prepare myself and make sure I'm in the right frame of mind before I do get around to reading it. But that does bring me to the end of the video, so thanks for watching if you've made it this far. If you've read any of the books that I've talked about in this haul, then please let me know in the comments what you thought of them, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye. Also, I did just want to say I'm really sorry for the lighting in this video. I started filming this about an hour ago after I finished work, and the sun has set, and so the light has changed, and I knew that this was going to happen when I started filming, so I don't know why I'm even mentioning it. I mean, I'm mentioning it because if anyone has noticed, then I wanted to acknowledge that I knew that this was going to happen. I'm an idiot, but hopefully it wasn't too distracting, and hopefully you still enjoyed this video. So yeah, bye.